Today, I'm sitting down with Noah Haynes, who used to be one of the media buyers here at Aspect. Today, we're going to be talking about his current e commerce journey, what he's working on, the agency incubator that hopes to retain clients for life, and so much more. I'm Nikita from AspectAgency.com, and let's get into the podcast. Noah, what's going on? I know you used to be a media buyer for Aspect here, and now you moved on to better things. I wouldn't say moved on, but we separated when we cut off the media buying section of Aspect. But it's been a minute since we talked together. How's everything on your end?
Yeah, man, it's been good. Ever since I left, because I think that was only like a month ago or month and a half, something like that.
Yeah, it was like a few
Yeah,
months
been pretty
ago.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty good. At this time, started the brand incubator with my partner John. He's the founder of Ecom Vids. I think we've talked about that a little bit. So
Yep.
he's been in the space for the last 6 to 8 years. So he's got like a wealth of knowledge, and especially on the production side, which I'm not good at all. Been pretty good though. We've got two brands that we're partnered with, and we're about to launch the third brand. But with Black Friday, Cyber Monday around the corner, it's just been all hands on deck sprint. So we're kind of waiting on that third.
Yeah, absolutely. Like pretty much everyone I talk to at this point in the agency space is like, yeah, I can't do anything Black Friday, Cyber Monday this week. I can't. Everything's all
Yeah.
hands on deck, including us. We were able to onboard a client last week, and it's been all hands on deck with them as well. So it's just, yeah, it's getting hectic. But the cool thing is, once you get like 3 weeks of prep, 1 week of just like go go go, and then like a week
hmm
rest off, and then more go 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 through the Christmas, New Year's holiday.
I would say Q4, that latter half is definitely a sprint. But if you can get like one or two clients in between like November to December, like that's best case.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know we talked a little bit about before I started recording about what you're doing with your own agency or incubator. I don't know what to call it,
Let's call
but
it an agency. Let's throw it out as
yeah.
an agency.
All right. With your agency. So the way that you're taking the approach here is you're taking interest within the business that you're going to be fulfilling for, like equity interest, fulfilling for them and growing their bottom line as well as their top line through all sales channels. So can you help
hmm
the audience understand exactly what you guys are doing?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely, I would say it's a combo of a few different things. Just, if you're in the D2C space or even the e-commerce, you've heard of may have heard of like the Sharma brands type people. Alex Ramosi has been big now. Everyone's heard his gym launch story, things like that. But yeah, we're really just becoming a growth partner to, I'd say, people who aren't trying to create like the next Liquid Death, like a crazy 100 million brand. It's really the people that their dream is exiting within 1 to 3 years for like a $10 million kind of deal, right? Like
Mhm.
that'd be a best case for them. That's generational wealth because they're not really in it for the business, right? They just have the risk tolerance and the drive to like create a business, but they don't have like the executional skills. So to your point, what we typically do is we look for brands that are around the 100 to 500,000 top line revenue because that doesn't really prove like product market fit, but it proves they've done a little bit because they wouldn't get it there without a little profit, right? And then at that point, if they check all the boxes, not only of like if they're a good like founder fit for us, but as well as like the product fits and we're aligned, we do four things to start. First, we do everything with content production. So, like I said with John, he's been doing Facebook, Amazon, YouTube ads for a very long time. And since I'm, a trained copywriter, I usually do the pre-scripting for those ads. We also do own media. So, Facebook, TikTok, whatever the first channel is going to be. We also do the landing page as well as the offer creation. I think that's a big thing. A lot of like landing page agencies, I think a lot of them are great, but I think they don't take the time of actually, or I guess they feel like they're overstepping to really go and like alter the offer. So they kind of just try to play around it. But with our partner brands, we basically tell them like, hey, like you got to give us the trust and like you can't really be the blocker. Like we want what's best and you got to let us test. So that's what we'll do with the landing page. And then the last one is something that you're doing as well, and we'll probably be able to talk about it for a while afterwards. But email and SMS for retention, because obviously it's not a game of like front end acquisition anymore. You really got to think about retention, lifetime value, and the only way to do that is through back end, right?
You got all the marketing channels covered, which is great. The paid acquisition, organic retention, as well as where people land. But do you also handle the backend infrastructure at all on the ecom side, like their P&Ls, seeing where their expenses are going, their manufacturing, etc.?
Yeah, so I can get touch on that too. At the moment, it's very minimal because the expectation going into the relationship is we're going to be doing everything in terms of growth, but I guess where they're kind of where we give them the power is customer support, product, and financials. So everything you just touched on, since I do have experience like launching brands personally, I'm definitely in the weeds slightly with them. But at the end of the day, that's where we have to trust them because one thing I've noticed is at first with I guess a client we were going to take on, they were very apprehensive to like let go of absolutely everything. So there's also this like not client, but partner balance of you have to leverage their time and like entrust them with a little bit rather than trying to take everything off their plate. So we usually leave those to them.
Absolutely. It's even myself, whenever I use service providers for the
Mm,
agency, it's just like, yeah, we need this, we need this. It's like, whoa, hold on. Like, let's just slow things down here. I can't really give you everything. Let's just try this
100%.
out. So I can see from the other side, even when we were to give like a big ask, like, hey, we need access to this, it's a big ask. And you kind of have to, it's a working relationship. So unless you come in, so for example, like with the way that Weekend does it, they come in with the expectation of like, we're part of your business. We're
Yeah.
not just an agency. So we look at the financials, we look at the P&L, we look at your recurring costs, your fixed costs, and see where we need to optimize there. Because funny enough, what I realized, especially with my experience as well as your experience working on some of our brands in the past, is it
Yeah.
really comes down to not just the Facebook side of things, but also like the COGS side of things, like manufacturing, the
Oh, yeah.
financials, what their tech stack is. You'd be surprised at how many brands are paying like 10K a month plus just on tech stack, which is like stupid.
Crazy.
you know,
Hmm.
all of that stuff needs to be taken care of. Are you going to be at some point implementing that within the agency?
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm glad you touched on that because that's exactly what we're planning on doing. And funny, you brought up Weekend Digital because I know you've talked with them as well. But that's been not a big inspiration, but I think a lot of inspirations for what we're doing is Weekend Digital is one creatively, which if anyone's heard, if you've ever seen the brands, Pillow Cube or Stair Slide, they're the ones that have launched those, and they take like a yeah, almost like a Harmon Brothers approach to creative, which is pretty cool. And they incubate their own brands. But yes, it's basically if you're always just on, I guess, on the outside of someone's business, you really can't, do much. So yes, to your point, I think that you really need to understand like not only gross margin and net margin, but like really, because that's where, the AOV comes in and bundling in different ways or properly creating new SKUs. Because, with email, it gets really old if you've only got two SKUs. It's really hard to create content and, there's a lot of potential if you have more to go for. And I think, I think we've talked about it as well. Obvi is a great brand for anyone to look at that's doing everything, I think, the best way possible.
Yeah, and the great thing about those guys is they're doing it in public. So not
Oh,
only
yeah.
do
Yeah.
you get to see the ads, you can also reach out to like the owners, the CMO and the CEO on like how they're operating. They're actually very nice guys. So I know also you mentioned like the next steps of like every other month hiring as well as growing and taking on a client. So how is that looking?
Yeah. No, so that's looking so far, so good. I will say I'm very, and maybe it's a little, don't hear it a lot, but I'm not very big on VAs, because at the end of the day, I don't know if it's the control freak or like just being in control, but I'm willing to pay very good premium for very good people. And I think that's, hiring is a huge thing. Whether that means, putting someone on I don't want to say probationary period, that's a negative connotation, but just like a trial period of like a month before getting them into full swing. I really want to make sure that people know like, hey, like, you know what you're getting yourself in for. I'm really trying to treat it in the same way like a tech startup would. It's going to be very high output, but at the same point, you will be rewarded either financially or through the knowledge or through the experience. So yeah, so what we're trying to do is onboard a client, and then the next month, once we get them fully booked, is get the next hire. Because at the moment, just for some context, it's currently me, John, my partner, and then also we have another awesome email strategist slash graphic designer. But we still have a few other positions that we want to implement, for the services, right? We want to get another trained media buyer to get me out of the media buying. We also want to get a Shopify developer as well as a more of like an actual CRO specialist, so they can work together and actually build out the custom experiences rather than just because drag and drop can get a lot done. But when you have, for example, if you had like a native or a Dr. Squatch where bundling low AOV items is there, you really want to have like custom control and like reduce that friction. So I think that's the next step. Yeah, simply good hires and trying to do it so we can offer, better experience and just grow the brands better.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned my lesson over the last year, like in 2021, when I was hiring people on, that it makes a lot more sense to pay that premium for the US market, even though it is a little bit expensive over than overseas, like in the Philippines or in
Mm-hmm.
Colombia. Like I do still have a few of those employees, Kevin being
Mm-hmm.
one of them, editing the video. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kevin. But with video editing, I don't necessarily need to hire a US editor, but like for things
Yeah.
that are revenue driving for clients, I think it would be very helpful as well as very professional to have someone based in the US. And I've changed my mind about this a couple months ago that like I think for the next fulfillment cycle and when we're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
hiring on next year in January, February, it will be for people that are based in the US that have great communication skills, great design skills, great copy
Yeah.
skills. And then everything that they're missing, we'll teach them and train them up for because it's difficult to even on the process side, like it's difficult to have like a designer, a copywriter, and then a setup person all decentralized or like siloed out. So that way, like
100%.
the revisions get lost in the shuffle, client communication gets lost in the shuffle, and there's just so much time that's wasted on bureaucracy in a way than the work
A little
itself. I was gonna say
bit.
you kind of noticed that when you were working with us.
A little bit, but at the same time, Aspect was growing and you were, figuring things out on the fly and with the different clients. So it makes sense. But no, I totally agree. And not even to say I wouldn't say I'm opposed to VAs or even international whatsoever, but like you said, if it's not only like a revenue generating task, but if it's like I don't want to say innovation, but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not just the customer support or like workflow work. It's like thinking of strategy or going above and beyond because you don't always want to hire someone that you train them everything you almost want them to be teaching you a little bit in some ways, right? So
Yeah, and that's the thing that I learned with US employees. It's just like once they get the handle of things, they start like suggesting more and more and more and like new
yeah.
ways. And at that point, I'm just like, this is your thing, own it. I'm just here to like do my things, which is like sales, finances, content, anything to push the
Yeah.
business forward, and as well as leadership and to push the business forward. Whereas your specialty is in like design and setup and copy. So I'm more than happy to like
100%.
take that back seat.
Yeah, you just take your hands off the wheel and you're just like, hey, I'll facilitate.
That's the thing. Like, what's funny is vacations teach you a lot about your business. So, like, if you go on a vacation and you take your hands off and nothing goes wrong, you got a sustainable business. If you have to
Yeah.
completely always keep going back in and forth, then, your business won't survive a week without you, which is weird
Mm-hmm.
to think about. You're gone a week and it's like, you don't have a business. I'm not going to say you don't have a business anymore, but it's definitely not,
But no, yeah.
yeah, not sustainable. I know you're in the past, like you're sort of freelancing, doing media buying for other agencies. So, how do you mainly work with clients right now? Are you going all in on this agency incubator?
Yeah, no, for sure. I can give some light to that. So yeah, recently I had been freelancing for about I would say 2.5, 3 years because originally in university, the cliche engineering degree, dropped out 1 year before all that stuff. But no, I started with copywriting. Also did media buying because I'd been growing my own brands at one point, originally with drop shipping, and then got into white labeling. I've exited 3 brands, nothing to write home about, more like the $10,000 to $25,000 sales. But it was mainly just kind of teaching me like, okay, like what am I inefficient at that's not getting me to that next step, right? And I couldn't always blame it on capital because you do have great people who can do things with $1,000 or $10,000. So it wasn't the money. And I think what I've learned through all the copywriting, media buying, and then email marketing, I think it's just the biggest side that I think is content. I am definitely not a content guy. And I think with the way that even the world's going, whether it's like, YouTube creators or brands or like content's king. And it's not only being able to produce content in like, let's just say like post-production, like do that well. It's like being a storyteller and also being able to like contextualize your message for each platform. And I think that's a crazy skill my partner's got. And I think that's what I've always needed as a partner. And then to your point of, how are we treating clients right now? Or like, are we going all in? Yeah, we're going all in. So it's basically, we're being very, very picky with the brands we do take on, because we don't want churn to, obviously this is a North Star. We don't want any churn. We want to take someone on, and obviously that's what every agency wants. So I'm not ignorant to that, but it's like, we're choosing great people who are like a great fit. They can't be blockers. They have to be genuinely great people. And the product they have has to have like the financial stats, because I'll go into the dashboard, I'll check out CPMs, I'll check out the product, the competitors, things like that. And if we think we can do it, we'll jump in there and we give them like a pretty crazy guarantee of, like, for example, the first brand we took on, we had them pay a premium, but then we said, we're going to be working for the next 3 months. You'll pay us $0 until we make you back that money you paid us plus some. And we give that to everyone. Any client we'll take on, we'll give them that offer.
Yeah. The biggest thing you can do is like a growth agency is those guarantees. Like we offer a guarantee because we know, like, we're confident and we've had zero returns so far. I guess, like, why should people take your agency seriously?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the biggest thing. And I think, and this is, maybe it's getting a little pitchy, but still, I'd say the three things we tell everyone is, one, it's the way that we see creative and the way that we iterate is faster than anyone, right? So I've worked at agencies that are like smaller scale, mid, and large at this point. And the number one bottleneck is not even one. I'll say two things. One is you have pods of, like, a pod of 4, right, working on a brand. But each one of those people have 10 different other brands. And there's this hierarchy chain where you want to get 3 image ads and it takes 4 weeks. That's crazy. Like that can't happen. So at the end of the day, you're not, you're paying for this agency and they're trying to promise you that they're like your partner, but they really aren't. Like, and I'm not saying that's to their detriment. I think it's mainly just like, how could you? Like, you just don't have the bandwidth. But what we're trying to do is, we're very low scale, and I'd said it before, but at scale, we really only want 6 to 8 people on our team, because we're not going to take a lot of brands on. This isn't us trying to become the next like VaynerX where we have thousands of brands. We only really want at scale 5 to 10 brands, and we won't take any on that we can't fulfill on. Another is just the approach of not offering like cherry picking services. We're going to give the full, right now it's the 4 services, but we're going to be slowly expanding, right? So we're going to be getting on a search specialist. We're going to be getting that Shopify developer, or, just a developer / CRO, just so we're, adding value there. And then over time, we also do, like you said, we want to get into the product / financial side to help our partner brands a little bit, whether that's like a CPA or an accountant, or, whatever that ends up being, or like forecasting. It's just a help, I guess. We're not in it for, hey, we've got you on a 6-month contract. Let's get you just enough results to where you stay with us, because we're not a churn game. If you want to exit your brand in 1 to 2 years, we're going to get you to that point, as well as set you up for a sale, right? Because you know as well, like if you want to get to that point where you want to go on a micro acquire, or you want to work with like an investment, a bank or something, you've got to have the SOPs. You have to be situated for it. Like your P&Ls have to be clean and tidy. So we want to make sure that we get them to that point.
Yeah, get them to a point where you scale spend for growth and then cut the spend back and just write off retention.
Yeah, no, and it is.
That is a strategy.
Again, it is, and that's why, because we're not trying to act like, hey, come with us, we're going to make you Liquid IV or Casper or something crazy, because that's not what. And being genuinely honest, that takes a certain level of skill and different scale that I've never personally done. So I'd never offer it as a service. But if you are trying to get to $1 million plus top line, get that sustainable where you've got 25% margins, and then try to exit within 6 months, we can do that. Like, that's something that John has experience, and I at this point with like the fulfillment and execution side that we've got enough confidence in.
Yeah, that's the thing. I switched up our business model as well a little bit to focus more on the retention side. So not in the same way where you're like forever clients until the exit. It's more so retention, like instead of like having clients, having relationships, because it used to be very like business client, like this is a client, but this is more so like these people are friends, like these people are family. And I know I used to say that before, but like this time it seems like I actually mean it. And with the way that I'm approaching things, like I'm talking about people's kids, talking about how their weekend was, like all things. So it's like that kind of relationship has made it way more fulfilling to work for the client as well as fulfilled for the client, because it makes things a lot more personal, like instead of like this is business, business, business. And to be honest with you, also with this conversation, I expected this to be more about media buying, but it turned into overall business strategy. So
Yeah, same.
I usually ask this question at the end for everyone, where it's like, what are the three highest leverage actions you can take with ecom brands right now? I was going to mention that for media buying, but I think it's better for just ecom brands as a whole, since you're so well diverse in everything that you do. What would be
Okay,
those
yeah.
three high leverage actions?
Yeah, in terms of high leverage actions, number one is, it sounds stupid, but actually think about retention. And you're big on that as well. But I think a lot of brands don't realize, like, and funny enough, one of the brand partners we had when we first started, he had told me, "Hey, I don't want to constantly send out emails. I want to make sure we can get 30% margin on the front end." And I said, "My man, why don't you want to use all the tools at your disposal? Like, you've got, this lead list, you have good deliverability, like, focus on retention, right?" And I think that's how you build community, that's how you build brand, and that's how you get $0 acquisition in the long term. So if you focus on email, like whether that's, like actionable steps, get Klaviyo in, do your 5 basic free flows, pre-purchase and post-purchase flows, get those in, and just worry about that and send 2 campaigns a week. That's like a high lever action. Another is, if you're trying to build like a sustainable ecom brand, like really try to get internal content production. Because Billo is great. A whole bunch of services are great. Even my partner John's previous business, Ecomvids, costs $5,000 for 10 creatives. But the game now is doing high volume creative and really testing your hooks, your messaging. It's almost like a Lego block of testing headlines and hooks. And if you're a copywriter, this is where you're going to shine, because you have a lot of like pieces you can pull and like move around. So number 2 is content production. I think you need to be able to pump out 10 to 20 creatives a week. Right now, for context, for our brands, we're doing like 40. Not to say they're completely different, like base style ads, but you're testing based on the results you're getting. And then third, I guess the biggest one is ecom vids and not ecom vids, sorry, ecom brands in general. I think you have to be kind of not weary taking advice, but I think on Twitter and YouTube videos, people will like see some advice and be like, "Oh, I need to go implement that strategy." But it's like, I personally feel there's different kinds of e-commerce, right? Like if you take 3 different brands, you take a Dr. Squatch that sells $10 deodorants, and then you take a Kizik, which is the slip-on shoes that are in the $60, $70 price range, and then you've got a Purple or Casper mattress, right? If you go look at a Twitter thread and it says, "Use these TikTok headlines," it's like, that's not going to work for all those products. So I think you just need to like be mindful of the content digesting and just making sure you're picking the best nuggets for your business, not in general. Because but that's the thing with social media, is it pays to be binary. It pays to be like
Yeah.
all in on something, which is awesome. But I think if you see one brand that sells supplements and you're selling a high ticket something else, you like take some golden nuggets, but not do their exact strategy.
Yeah, that's the strategy that I try to take from social media, is just like, okay, this is
Yeah.
great. How would I implement it here? Well, it's like, okay, this might work, but also might not work.
Mm-hmm.
And also to your second point, it's great to have abundance of content, shooting multiple pieces of content a week. 40 is great. I'd say that's a really good number. Mainly because I'm assuming what you do is just you have the creator record like 10 minutes worth of content, and then you just chop it up and slice it to different hooks, different call to actions, different testimonials, or however you call it. So I'm guessing that's how you managed to get that such a high output on creative.
Yeah, and also with John, he's built out a casting network, and he lives down in LA. So he's got 200 different actors in UGC that are relatively cheap that we can get into his production studio. So when he
Mm,
does a shoot, he's got 2 hours of footage that I think a lot of people don't have access to. So I feel like that's a pretty big moat that we've got in terms of not having to wait 2 weeks to go get a UGC to film something. It's very, we schedule the shoot, get the shoot, post-production, and within 2 days kind of deal. But yes, it's clipping, testing hooks and headlines, and yeah, stuff like that.
that's amazing. Well, Noah, It was a pleasure. Thank you again for dropping that much value. Where can people find you?
Yeah, no, for sure. So right now, it's going to look pretty janky right now, but we're going to be building out bottomlinescaling.com. That's going to be our main website, as well as LinkedIn. We're going to be posting a lot. And similar to what you were talking about with Avi, we're going to try to build in public and just try to be super transparent, because at the end of the day, even if you copy what we do, it's there's enough clients, enough people out there for everyone, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Noah, and I'll see you in the next one.
awesome.
Thanks again for joining us on the Scaling E-commerce podcast. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you want email marketing tips delivered straight to your inbox on a weekly basis from yours truly, then check out the link below or in the show notes to subscribe and join my newsletter. If you're a D2C brand with at least 10,000 email subscribers and interested in starting a conversation to work together, then go to aspectagency.com and we'd love to chat with you. And if you want to stay up to date with anything email and SMS, just follow me on Twitter at Nikita Vakrushev or check the show notes for the link. With that said, I'm Nikita and I'll see you in the next one.